Are those tears of joy or just relief?
I do feel remorseful. And can I say a couple of things to these gentlemen?
Yes.
Love I do though. We married.
Mr. Threlkeld, you have entered this courtroom with a marriage on the brink of divorce. You state that while you were out of the country serving in the military, your wife paraded around town with other men. And she has admitted to cheating multiple times.
So, when did he first find out that his wife was being unfaithful?
Actually, ma'am, I was overseas in Afghanistan, and I was at up in the Northeast, and a soldier of mine came up to me and tapped me on the boot and said, hey, I need to go outside, we need to talk right now. So, earlier on in the day, me and him got into some words, so I thought we were gonna, settle it. Well, it turns out his wife and my wife were friends, and she had found out that she was actually stripping as we spoke. And at the time, I found out about it. I thought, it was all just a hoax. So I went, calmly to the internet lounge, got on Facebook and asked her, hey, is it true you're doing what I told you I didn't want you doing at all? And she didn't really say anything, honestly. And right after I left there, our base actually got attacked. And they actually turned off the internet for 3 weeks. So I was in the dark for 3 weeks. And then another 2 weeks after those 3 weeks went by, I got transferred to Bagram. And while I was at Bagram, I finally was able to get back online. And I get on Facebook, and there's some clown on there saying, liking all her skimpy photos.
Skimpy photos.
Was following her. He liked that she was started working at the club. So then I started doing a little bit of research, wondering, who this guy is. Mm-hmm. So I went to the phones and I called her and I said, hey, I know you're stripping. I could somewhat deal with. Tell me about this guy that's going on. And she says, oh, it's nothing, it's just a friend, etc. The same BS that every girl says.
First of all, we were done.
She says that he hacked his Facebook to check her messages and found texts like this.
Oh, baby, I can't wait to see you later on tonight. I had a great time with you. I can't wait to, the last few days we've spent together. It's been amazing.
These are the messages
yes,
you're seeing that your wife is entertaining while you're serving your country.
Let's see what she has to say.
First of all, we were done. We were not together. We had a phone conversation, and he had said, we're gonna get a divorce, and I'll send you the divorce papers.
And he had more to say to assert his position.
She needed the funds to support our family. Overseas, I was making
$4,000
to $5,000 tax-free a month. Living in a $400
It wasn't even that much.
Room.
But why did she want to strip despite the man earning more than sufficient money? Here's what happened.
So you're riding down the highway.
Yeah, she has her phone, and I was wondering who, because I saw the guy. She hadn't fully admitted that she's been seeing this guy. So I snatched the phone from her and I started going through it. And as I was looking through it, there was a number that she'd called like 13 times. So I called him right back. Mm-hmm. And he answers the phone, hey, I said, who is this? Are you the one that's been my wife? He said, yes, I've been. And now her defense, she starts laughing, saying, I knew he was just gonna say that. He's just saying that to make you mad. And it was ridiculous.
And so she hadn't met the guy for a few days because her husband was back. And so he texted saying this.
He texts her and says, I guess I figured now who you picked. And so she starts crying. And I said, why are you crying?
We were already done.
And she's like, well, he was my boyfriend.
What I do? Why do you care?
Why would you have a boyfriend if you're married? Paper or no paper?
We were done.
You had papers?
Well, why do we have to have papers to be done? You said it was over.
Because in a marriage...
It's called a divorce.
Yeah,
So, we were done a few days ago.
When the man thought of doing this.
So you had it in your mind that if I get my wife pregnant, she'll stop stripping.
Roger.
Because that's going to definitely
be
she
tells me
kind of
like she just said, kind of like how she just said, I'm going to strip and I'm going to do whatever I want because that's what I'm going to do. I said, oh, really? Okay, I'll give you a 9-month break on me.
Coming on to the pregnancy a bit.
You asked why we're here for paternity court. Within 3 weeks of us being home, she was pregnant. So, I don't know if it was my devious, messed up head that got her pregnant or the dude. So that's the reason 100% why we're here.
But she was also sleeping with someone else at the time, and even she admitted it. They'd earlier decided to get a lie detector test for his insecurities.
She starts, getting nervous. I could start telling from body language and, tone of her voice, she was getting nervous.
We don't need a lie detector test. We just need communication. There's no reason.
She tells me straight out.
What happened?
She tells me straight out about the people that she actually cheated on me with. Right after our first daughter, she cheated on me with a guy when she was going to cosmetology school. On her way to cosmetology school, she goes to his house. And a little bit before that, he was taking pictures of both of us. And when she went there to go check the photos, she got a tour of the house, and lo and behold, the tour ended at the room.
But wait, There's more.
There was a friend of mine that we've been friends with for a couple years, and when I went to AT, I think it's either annual training or drill, she was watching TV next to this one guy, and she started falling asleep, and next thing you know, he rolled over on her, and she thought it was
Your
me.
Honor, when he... No.
And had sex with him.
Mistaken identity.
I guess.
Coming to the important part.
Do you think, honestly, that he is the father?
It could be 50-50 chance, honestly, Your Honor.
Anybody got a quarter?
And they still both want to make this marriage work. Let's now see the results.
Mr. Thruckeld, you are Liliana's father.
Guess they really have to work it out now.
Ms. Prowl, now you're asking the court to award you $475 in back child care expenses.
Yes, Your Honor.
Should one of 3 men be identified as your baby's biological father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Here's what one of the potential fathers, Mr. Morton, had to say.
In this situation, I was under the impression that was, me and her pretty much against the world. I've come to find out that she's slept around with one guy, then another guy. I'm just perplexed about the situation. I don't know who the father is of this child. That's why I'm here.
Let's get into how it all started.
We worked at a sandwich shop together. She was there about maybe a month or two before I started working there. So when I got in, she invited me to kind of go ice skating. Now, needless to say, come to the day that we were supposed to go ice skating, we didn't make it to the ice rink. She pretty much came back straight to my place. I don't need to go any further from there.
Here's how Mr. Morton found out about Miss Prowell's infidelity.
So I go into the sandwich shop. The guy, I think his name is Mr. Gaddis. He was gonna hand me the bag of bread. Before he did so, he asked me, was I involved with Miss Prowell? Now, I told him yes. We had a little thing going on at the time. It wasn't very, very serious. Well, he was like, well, I
But
hope
you're
you
listening
don't.
to other people, though. You're listening
I
to
hope
other
you don't
people.
get too serious with her
He doesn't-
because
Your Honor,
I have
he doesn't
already
even know
slept
this
with
person.
her.
To this, Miss Prowell admitted that she was indeed cheating on him. Here's what Mr. Gaddis had to say.
We ended up hooking up again after that, and seeing her walking around at the job, made the chemistry even better. She looked real good in a little outfit. Didn't know she was in a relationship. She lied to me, obviously. I don't think I'm the father, because we only messed around a few times, and I didn't hear from her for months after that.
Let's now get into the third person.
Mr. Laurie, we also met, and I do want to say for the record, I'm very remorseful for what I did because that was totally out of spite. That's what it was. I did it because I found out he was messing around with someone else. Excuse me. So I said, okay, you didn't put a ring on my finger. You want to go talk to other people? Fine, I can do the same thing.
What's going to be revealed now is really embarrassing.
So you were sleeping with 3 co-workers from the sandwich shop?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let's now get into the details of the pregnancy.
I slept with Mr. Morton during our relationship sometime on the 17th, and I slept with him again on the 28th.
Okay, move on.
I'm on the red. When I slept with Mr. Gaddis at a party, it was around the 19th, and then again on the 22nd. When I slept with Mr. Laurie, which was a terrible mistake, was the 24th as well as a party, and then again at the 26th.
These dates are a little closer
So
than I thought.
they're a
Terrible
lot
mistake,
closer.
huh?
It's a lot closer than we thought, too. Let's see the results now.
Mr. Gaddis is not the father. It has been determined by this court the father is Mr. Morton.
Mr. Morton doesn't want anything to do with Miss Prowell, but he will do all his duties as the father.
Ms. Beto, you say you were furious when the defendant asked you for a DNA test on your 7-month-old daughter, Ileana. Yes. Now you claim that request has broken up your happy home. Mr. Bolton, you state you have reason to believe Ms. Beto's child may not be your biological daughter.
But this is not Mr. Bolton's first time on paternity court. Let's see how it plays out this time for Mr. Bolton. Here's what happened when the baby was born.
When the baby was born, I cut the umbilical cord. The doctors wiped the baby off, and they gave Miss Beto the baby at first. She was still fatigued from delivering birth.
Understandably.
So they gave me the baby. The doctor that gave the procedure to deliver the baby, he handed me the baby and he looked at me. He said, "Are you sure this baby's yours?" And I looked at the doctor. I looked at the doctor. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Because this baby's white."
It's not just the doctors. Other people around them too share the same opinion.
When we brought Ileana home from the hospital, we had friends and family come over to see the baby, then looking at the baby like, "Oh, she's beautiful, she's beautiful." Is she yours?
What makes it worse is that this man has been in the same situation 3 times.
So in your lifetime, 3 times,
Yes, ma'am.
someone has claimed you're the father of their child,
Yes, ma'am.
but you weren't.
I wasn't.
And now you're here again.
So did Miss Beto sleep with anybody else?
We actually broke up last year around August, and it was due to infidelity on his behalf.
Well, Your Honor, she was accusing
And-
me the whole time that I was cheating. I got a couple of buddies
He
that I hang
was.
out with before. I got a couple of buddies I hang out with. They do things on the side.
Your Honor,
Now,
I
by
saw
my
the texts
association
from the
being with
females.
being with them, I'm getting accused daily. So it's like I felt like I was pressured, getting pushed to the point where I should cheat just to make you happy. Because this is what you're doing. You
That
put
was
pressure
your
on me.
logic?
Yes.
And since he was anyway being accused, why be loyal, right? That's what he thought.
So I talked to the woman, and I
Yeah.
believe her.
But
And I gave him a
but when
chance to
she
tell
left,
his
she
story.
left, she had sex with
I
another
gave him
guy.
that's
You know
right.
what
I
I'm
did
saying?
sleep with
And
somebody,
so-
but I did it the right way. I left you first. I was single.
But did she sleep with anybody else after the breakup?
During the time you broke up and you left him, did you sleep with someone else
Yes, I
without
did.
using protection?
I did. And let me tell you, it wasn't like that. I left him, and it wasn't like, oh, hey, I'm single, let's go party. You know, it was more like I was hurt. It had been a month later. I just went out, hanging out, and one thing led to another. I saw a guy I liked, but we actually slept together twice.
In any case, these two got back together later on, and this happened.
I pick up the phone, text messages from this guy. So I have reason to believe, like, okay, you tell me you start messing with him, I still think that you're still with him.
You saw
still
text,
messing with him.
Your Honor, he saw text
mean,
messages
even-
from the guy. He never saw me respond.
And guess what? The other man's daughter looks like Miss Bolt's daughter.
Ileana's pink, Caucasian, white, and you see me.
Really?
I'm brown, no blue eyes. I mean, the only thing I see is a nose.
If he felt like that, Your Honor, why stay for 7 months? Why even take care of her? Why sign the birth certificate?
Your Honor.
Why is it that every time I call you, you run to her? If you felt like that, you should have been said that. You don't
Your
wait
Honor.
7 months later and then tell somebody like that, we're supposed to get married and everything. What you mean?
So, what are the results?
Mr. Bolton, you are her father.
But what I tell you,
Despite him embarrassing himself, here's how he chose to handle the situation.
Everything speaks for itself, because that's what you told me. Actions. Lord, I do though. Will you marry me?
yes.
Miss Tucker, you believed another man was your dad until a bomb was dropped on you 10 years ago when your mother admitted that the defendant is your biological father. You opened your case to prove to Mr. Hunter that he is your dad. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hunter, you admit you have distanced yourself from the plaintiff because you have serious doubts you are her father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Tucker, you admit you initially lied to your daughter, but claim you and Mr. Hunter have always known that he is her father. Is that
Yes, Your
correct?
Honor.
Here's why the daughter opened the case.
I opened my case because for these last few years, I have been trying to get Charles to do a DNA test with me. Twice, I scheduled a test, he didn't show up. And it's just a lot of confusion in my own mind, and it's very traumatic to me. I'm trying to figure out if he's my father or not to close this chapter in my life.
Here's what the alleged father had to say.
I want her to find out who her father really is also.
You don't believe you are.
Well, I had doubts because the mother told me that I wasn't 30 years ago, so.
And the mother says,
I told her that someone else was her father at the time in order to protect her. I felt like Mr. Hunter was not a good role model.
So you felt by saying someone else was her father, what she had a better chance of having a father in her life? What was your reasoning?
No, Your Honor, that's not the reason why. I was dating this guy, but it was basically over. And at the end of the day, he wasn't good for her, and neither was Mr. Hunter. So I just went on and just raised her by myself, well, my family.
So who does the daughter think her real father is?
The other gentleman was my father. I always grew up only hearing his name, and his sister used to come and get me, and they treated me as their own. Every weekend, I would be with his family. I never met him. He never was around, but they still showed me a lot of love.
And when did she really find out that he's not the father?
I was in the 5th grade, and his sister had came and got me one weekend like she always did. And they were on the phone, and I was over listening to their conversation with her telling him that he needed to come around and he needed to meet me. She believed that I was his daughter. And I walked in and I asked, was that him on the phone? And she said yes. She gave me the phone. And it was my first time ever talking to him. I was really excited. But I wanted to know, where was he? Why was he not around? And that's when he told me that my mom was not being honest with me. And he knew I wasn't his daughter.
And over the phone?
Mm-hmm.
And how old were you when this happened?
I was in the 5th grade.
Wow, that must have been a lot to digest. So she'd gone and spoken to her about it, and here's how that had gone.
I did go home and I talked to my mom about it, and she told me it did not matter because she was my mother and father and he didn't do anything anyway. And so I just accepted it as that. My mom's always did her best with me, and I grew up with a great family, so I just took it as if it was his loss.
At least she's been a good mother. Let's see what more she has to say.
I was in the 7th grade, and where we're from is very small. So I was at a store, and there's a woman who knows them both. And she told me, she said, you look just like your dad. And so naturally, I'm thinking she's talking about the other gentleman. So I go, oh, you know my dad? And I said his name. And she goes, that's not your dad. And that's when she said Mr. Hunter's name. And that was the first I have ever heard of him.
But her mom just told her that the lady was lying, coming on to the time of pregnancy.
Adrian told me she was pregnant.
So when she got pregnant, you were told?
Yeah, and she told me the child wasn't mine.
After hearing this, Mr. Tucker had left for 15 to 16 years. But here comes a little contradiction.
I was in middle school, and the young woman that is like his daughter, I guess he was there to pick her up, and they called me out of class. This was the first day I ever saw him. And he told me who he was, and he told me that he was my dad. That's what he said. So
what?
That's what he told me that day.
Mr. Tucker said that he vaguely remembers that conversation and that he must have mentioned it as a joke. Who even does that? Here's what her aunt had told her mother at one point.
And I just was talking about some things that I wanted to do, and my aunt made the comment to my mom that she had not been truthful to me about who my dad was, and she needed to tell me the truth.
Her aunt revealed to Miss Tucker that he, in fact, is her father. Let's listen to what Mr. Tucker has to say.
Well, I had met a young lady, and come to find out it was Adrian's sister. And I thought that she about that.
So you slept with her sister. Did you know this?
Your Honor, this has nothing to do with my sister.
When I came back to North Carolina, Adrian wouldn't speak to me, she wouldn't talk to me, she had nothing to do with me. That was the reason why I felt she wouldn't talk to me.
Got it. See, this is it. Whew, thank you, Lord, for...
Let's now see what the results are.
Mr. Hunter, you are not the father.
That isn't what we were expecting. So who is really the father?
Who is your daughter's biological father?
It has to be the other guy, because it was just them two. I'm not that girl, so. Between them, it has to be the other one then. Yes, Your Honor.
Let's hope she finds her real father.